What if you've seen one of the rarest animation in the game, but didn't even know about it? Apex has over 25 unique animations, some only happening in 1 to 20 times to 1 in thousands, and some are so rare that to this date, they still haven't been discovered. I decided to compile all of the rare animation that we know of to date, diving through several message board and of course the Gaming Merchants video from 2020, and it's safe to say that many more animations have been discovered since then. Make sure that you watch to the end because one of them is super rare and I did not see any other mention of it just yet. If I missed any rare animations, let me know in the comments and let's dive into it. It appears that most, if not all, heirlooms have at least one rare animation to them. The most recent one being discovered is this animation of Valkyrie's heirloom being cocked and then fire like a shotgun, muzzle flash and all. This animation has to be super rare as this is the first time we've seen any clips of it since the heirloom was added a few months back. And it plays when you do the super common action of switching from your weapon to your heirloom. Another rare animation for Valkyrie's heirloom is a little bit less rare than the shotgun one, but still worthy of a mention. Hitting an enemy with the heirloom has a tiny chance of Valkyrie instead slapping them with her helmet rather than hitting them with her spear. This also plays a unique sound effect. Next up is this Octane animation, where after using a stim, he pulls the stim out, twirls around the tip of his finger, and then drops it on the floor. This animation wasn't rare in the past, as it could be reproduced by stimming, waiting for the stim to hit a certain spot, and then doing a melee, followed by spamming the stim button again. Gaming Merchant told us that this was reproducible in 2020, but when I tried replicating it about 2 years later, it was impossible. So it must have been patched out and is once again fully random. This Mirage animation is incredibly rare and only works if you have his heirloom. Instead of hitting them with the trophy, Mirage uses his left hand to stick both of his fingers out to, well, point someone in the eyes. This animation can be replicated just by punching someone. Despite being so rare, this one Reddit user managed to get it 3 times in a row and using up all of his luck for the rest of the year. Revenant has a lot of rare animations, especially when it comes to his ultimate. The first one is the skull crushing animation, which seems to appear in about 1 out of 20 times. It's simply triggered by placing your ultimate. Here's another rare Revenant animation, but this time it's his heirloom. If you do a melee with Revenant's heirloom, you will eventually do this full hand stab using your left hand instead. And you can also use your left hand to hit that like button. This Wraith animation is going to be the rarest one on this list simply because it can't be replicated anymore. Back in the first year or so of the game, Wraith players would randomly get this OK hand animation when coming out of phase after using a portal. This OK hand was a reference to the Titanfall 2 mission called Cause and Effect, where it also had an Easter egg, which was the OK hand. Now, this animation just disappeared off the face of the earth, but it seems to be conveniently timed around the time where there was a OK hand controversy. If you aren't aware of this, the message board 4chan made up a meme pretending that the OK hand was a hate symbol, and as a result, the OK hand was scrubbed from a lot of media, including Overwatch and of course Apex Legends. Next up is this G7 Scout animation, where the magazine pops out of the top like an M1 Garand and is then reloaded by the magazine coming back from the top as well. And what makes it even more rare is that it supposedly only works when you shoot until you get an empty magazine and then let the game automatically reload for you. We might see more clips of this springing up this season since the Scout is back as ground loot. Gibraltar will randomly punch with 2 blades instead of just his own axe when you're punching using his heirloom. This, like all of the heirloom punches, has a very low chance. Here is another rare animation for when Valkyrie pulls out her heirloom. So there is a very small chance that when you pull out your heirloom, Valkyrie will start by pulling out a card, looking at it, and then flinging it away. This specific card is a callback to the end of her cinematic North Star, where she was offered the Apex Predator card by Blisk before shooting a glass that did nothing wrong, taking that card, and storming away. Now this is one of the rarest, if not the rarest animations in the game. When you're using a melee as a Wraith, apparently with your hands rather than with an heirloom equipped, there is a very tiny chance that Wraith does a finger gun sign and then dealing damage, rather than the punch that she normally would. We know this is rare because this animation wasn't discovered until 2 years after the game was released, and it makes the rounds maybe once or so a year. When I was looking for clips for this, it turns out that this animation is not specifically for Wraith, but it seems to be an animation that randomly plays in the Pathfinder's boxing ring. This animation could be a reference to Team Fortress 2, where where the character Heavy has an emote where he too fires a finger gun and the enemy standing in front of it when he says pow, well, they die. Watson's Heirloom also has a rare animation. This one is fairly rare and it is one of the few animations that could play whenever Watson pulls out her heirloom. There are also a few rare door kick animations on this list, and this crypto animation has to be one of the rarest of them. When you kick a door to break it as a crypto, there's a tiny chance that instead of you kicking the door, crypto instructs his drone to break it wide open. Next up is this Octane animation, which although is pretty rare, you're bound to have seen it because you are going to do a lot of stims per game as an Octane. After stimming, Octane holds the stim out in front of him and does sort of a mic drop movement, followed by him lowering his hand in a funny looking way. Another rare Revenant Ultimate animation is this funny looking Naruto-esque jutsu one. But what if I told you that this animation is not only a reference, but it looks just like the summoning jutsu from Naruto? The Edo Tensei jutsu can raise tons of high quality soldiers with unlimited chakra and stamina and an immortal body. It's pretty fitting for someone like Revenant, don't you think? The other Revenant Ultimate animation that I didn't mention yet is the Enchantress. When placing a totem, Revenant has a chance to extend his own hand and then have another hand show up from underneath before placing the totem with his left hand. This is a reference to the Enchantress from the Suicide Squad movie, but I wouldn't have known without googling because I just couldn't sit through that movie at all. So apparently the loot packs also have rare animations, and if you are like me and you haven't been paying any attention to those, it normally hops away, walks away, or runs away after you open a pack. But once in a blue moon, it will instead fly away. If you haven't noticed any of this, I can't blame you because you're probably like me and you were too busy focusing on what disappointing loot you got instead. When Valkyrie stops flying, she usually pulls out a peace sign animation before you get to shoot anyone, which is annoying to anyone who has played her for more than 5 minutes, but there's also a very small chance that she instead does this really cool looking Kamehameha animation, which is a direct reference to Dragon Ball. So yeah, Fortnite does have a really cool Dragon Ball collaboration and all, but who was first? Pathfinder's boxing gloves also have several different rare animations. First off, we have this double-handed Go-Go Gadget extendo arm, which randomly triggers when you're running and using a melee. The second one is a one-handed Go-Go Gadget extendo arm, except unlike the previous one, this one can be triggered when you're just walking or if you're standing still. Something else that is very rare is a percentage of you guys watching that are subscribed, that number specifically being 17.4%. So if you hit the subscribe button, maybe we can hit 200,000 subs this year, which would be awesome. Thank you. It seems like door kick animations in general are super rare, but how many doors do you actually kick for the entire duration of a game? I'd argue it's probably way less than 1 per average. Anyways, Rampart also has one of these for her heirloom. If you keep kicking a door long enough, instead of kicking with her right leg, Rampart will kick the door with apparently Octane's leg. And it just feels completely illegal to see. Next up is an incredibly rare and odd looking Mirage melee animation. If anything, it's one of my favorites, where instead of hitting someone with his trophy, Mirage pulls out a large pork chop and whacks his enemy with it. What's interesting is that even though this Mirage animation is so rare, there's supposedly one more in the game, and the developers have said that so far nobody has discovered it. I'm really looking forward to hearing about it when that is. Those are all the rare animations, but let me know if I did miss any in the comments. If you enjoy this style of content and you want to see the game's rarest skins, check out the video on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.